The station clock chimed 12 times, each clang echoing through the deserted hall like a death knell.
The cold, damp air. It feels like it's cutting right through me.
Fog clung to the platform, swirling tendrils that obscured the tracks and swallowed the world beyond.
I'm all alone here.
The air tasted metallic, a coppery tang on her tongue. Unease coiled in her stomach.
Where is everyone? Even the usual late-night stragglers are absent.
Only the rhythmic drip of water from a leaking pipe punctuated the silence. A silence that felt heavy, expectant. A distant rumble, low and guttural, broke the stillness. It grew quickly, a mechanical growl that vibrated in Sarah's chest.
What is that? Those headlights, they look so menacing.
The train emerged slowly, a hulking silhouette against the white, its outline blurred and indistinct.
This isn't my usual train. It's ancient, with paint peeling and windows dark and lifeless.
It screeched to a halt, the sound like a scream swallowed by the fog. The doors hissed open, revealing an empty carriage, bathed in a sickly yellow light that flickered ominously.
I'm late, so very late, I have to get home.
The carriage was cold, the air thick with the smell of damp and something else, and something ancient and deeply unsettling.
This seat, it's so stiff and unyielding, almost like stone.
The train lurched forward, its movements jerky and uneven like a creature in pain. The fog pressed against the windows, a white wall that seemed to breathe heavily.
You are not alone.
Who's there? Show yourself! It must be my imagination, just nerves and the late hour.
But the hairs on the back of her neck prickled, a primal warning she couldn't ignore. She was being watched. She was sure of it. The train lurched again, throwing Sarah forward, almost off her feet. She caught herself on the seat in front, her eyes widening as she saw him, a figure she had hoped never to see again. He sat opposite her, shrouded in shadow, his features obscured by the dim light, making it hard to discern his intentions. He was tall and gaunt, his clothes dark and ragged, as if he had been wandering for years. He didn't seem to belong, a discordant note in the symphony of the night, an unsettling presence in the otherwise quiet carriage.
"Hello," he rasped, his voice a dry whisper like leaves skittering across pavement, sending a chill down her spine.
Sarah froze, her breath caught in her throat, her mind racing with fear and confusion. His voice seemed to wrap around her, chilling her to the bone, making her feel as if she was trapped in a nightmare. She couldn't speak, couldn't move, paralyzed by fear, her body betraying her in this moment of terror. He tilted his head, a slow, deliberate movement that sent shivers down her spine as if he was savoring her fear.
"You shouldn't be here," he continued, his voice gaining strength, echoing through the empty train car, each word a hammer blow against her resolve. "This train, it isn't for you. It never was."
His words were pronouncements, final and unyielding, heavy with an unseen weight. She wanted to scream, to run, to escape this nightmare, but her body refused to obey. It was as if invisible chains held her in place. She was rooted to the spot, unable to move a muscle, her gaze locked on the figure across from her. His eyes, cold and unfeeling, two pinpricks of cold fire, seemed to burn into her soul, piercing her very essence. She felt exposed, vulnerable, as if he could see every secret she had ever kept.
"This is a place of shadows," he whispered, leaning closer, his breath cold against her skin, the smell of decay clinging to him. "And you," he said, his voice dripping with malice. He breathed, his voice a caress, a sinister promise. "You are out of place. You do not belong here, and you never will."
Panic surged through her, breaking the spell that held her captive. She scrambled to her feet, her gaze darting around the carriage, searching for an escape. But there was none. The windows wouldn't budge. The doors were sealed shut. She was trapped.
The train screeched, a high-pitched wail that echoed in her ears. It was slowing down. This was her chance.
She raced towards the doors, her heart pounding against her ribs. As the train lurched to a stop, she threw herself against the doors with all her might. They burst open with a groan. The platform was deserted, swallowed by the fog. Sarah didn't hesitate. She knew she had to act quickly, the dense mist cloaking her every move. She jumped, tumbling onto the hard ground, the impact knocking the air from her lungs. The pain was sharp, but she couldn't afford to stop. She scrambled to her feet and ran, not daring to look back, the sound of her own ragged breathing loud in her ears. Each step felt like a lifetime. her heart pounding in her chest.
A low chuckle, laced with amusement and something else, something colder, followed her. It was a sound that sent shivers down her spine, freezing her blood. Until next time, the voice whispered from the fog, a promise carried on the wind. It was a haunting declaration, echoing in the stillness of the night.
Sarah didn't stop running. Her legs burned, but she pushed on, driven by sheer terror. The station, the train, it all faded into the fog-choked night. The world around her seemed to dissolve into the mist, leaving her in an endless void. But the feeling of being watched, of something unseen lurking just beyond the veil of reality, that stayed with her. It was an oppressive presence, always just out of sight. A chilling reminder that some shadows never truly let go. They linger, haunting the edges of our perception, waiting for the moment to strike again.